Welcome to The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly podcast featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 202, Desperate to be Loved. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to The Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm the host. I'm here today in 818 Studios with my producer.
Good morning, everybody. This is Dave Croft. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 202 of The Authentic Spiritual Journey. As always, we welcome you to a brand new week. Happy Monday. Hope you are doing well. Let's see. I've mentioned the show number. I've mentioned the. Have I talked about the weather yet? Haven't talked about the weather yet.
Right, I know you recently learned that's kind of your
I
routine.
did, and so now I'm all in my head about it, but it's fine. It's totally fine. It's just because,
there's something, when you're learning a new language, one of the main things you learn is greetings and then how to talk about the weather. When I was learning Cherokee, after I learned to write it and, the initial hellos, the next thing was talking about the weather.
Well, I think that remains in today's climate of discourse, it remains one of the few things
that we can
all talk about. And even that, with climate change, even that be... But
even climate change depends on the part of the world you live in.
We're in trouble if it is raining outside and somebody says, that's not my truth.
And somebody says it's not raining.
Right. Okay.
Well, it's kind of like the old Unity minister joke of how many Unity ministers does it take to change a light bulb?
How many?
That light bulb's not burned out.
Oh.
We denied the existence of the darkness bulb. Yes. Well, friends, welcome to the show. It's always a great day. Dave and I have been connecting quite a bit this morning. That's been fun. I hope you feel our connection, in the show. I know you do. We had a great time at show 200. If you haven't gotten to listen to that, go back and grab that one because it was live and it was at a beautiful venue and location, and that was a great connection with people in person. I can't say enough about that.
Yeah, that was so good. And once again, a special shout out to Jackie and Will, the team that really took care of us at AOA in Orlando, as well as Lineage Coffee for providing the coffee for us. And we had a room full of our longstanding supporters, both in prayer and in financial support. And so it was just a little kind of intimate way to thank those folks who have been with us along the journey, as well as the energy to have a live show. Because this is our first time recording, me and you, since we recorded the 200th. And just such a good energy, and I'll just echo what we said there. In that, I don't think it's going to be our last live event.
Right. Well, that was what was so interesting. There were so many requests, like, "What are you doing next month?" Mm-hmm. Somebody said once a quarter. And I love to be live with the people I love and to do ministry, which is really what this is, our online ministry. So I'm giving that thought. Ethically, I've always tried to be really careful because I left CCU Orlando and I don't want to do a lot of things in Orlando that would pull anybody from the church. So I've been really careful not to do a lot of things like on Sundays or anything like that. Well, now that I'm the minister in Tampa, that takes care of the Sunday part.
Yeah. And
and I'm fine ethically to do something else. I mean, because
it's been a year and a half. I think the statute of limitations has lifted on that embargo.
Well, I can do, a Friday event, Saturday event, that's not taking away from anything. I just have always wanted to respect the new leadership there and all of that. But I think we will do another Orlando event. And, I was thinking next time we might have a little live music as well.
Oh, love that idea. And I would still love to get into Lineage. It just, the schedule didn't work out.
We were going to record at Lineage, and then they had a bunch of staffing changes. And she said, oh my gosh, we really want to support you. We just can't do it staffing wise. Plus it was the time of year and whatever. But she said, but can we still provide coffee? Which I was not expecting. Resounding yes.
Yeah.
And the coffee, I can't remember the last time I drank that much coffee.
I drank, you could tell when we come back from break,
It was like boom,
and
boom,
for
boom.
me, we're in those, I'm drinking out of those little cups, but I was just refill after
pounding
refill.
it.
No, in my mind, I want a live show where there's like tinkly coffee cups kind of in the background. I can hear it. Like my NPR head, I can hear it. So, but thank you for those folks who came by and spent a Saturday morning as we recorded our 200th episode. And again, if you haven't checked it out, be sure to download that episode. Check out the YouTube channel because you'll see us both, and you'll see some pictures if you go to the show notes from episode 200.
And I was going to say, if you'd given this year, you should have gotten an invitation. Somebody said they didn't get one. I said, well, check your junk mail because there were at least 30 not opened. I went with a real expensive way to send because I was like, I want a high class event. I'm going to do an Evite, and I don't care if it costs money. This is for our supporters. And I was all out, and then nobody opened it. Right. And I was like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to do an Evite. Next time, I'm just going to send people a text and say, hey, I'm doing a gig if you want to come.
Or a postcard or something.
Or postcard.
You know what? All that said, I think the people who needed to be there were there. And
it was awesome.
It's like, it was just, divine appointment. There was something really kind of... there was something really special in the air in that moment, and I think if it was like a giant group, maybe especially for our first live event, I think it was a good way to kind of test that and get a feel for it, and it gave me the confidence that I think this is going to be something that we're going to want to do on at least a semi-regular basis.
Exactly. And friends, again, thank you for your financial support. It's that support that keeps us going because, if people don't give, we think you don't value it. So anytime you want to know what you value, look at your checkbook. And this is true for me. This year I've had some real goals around my physical body and physical health. And I know that I'm spending energy there and valuing that by the money I'm spending on coaching, on equipment for my workouts. I can tell what I value, right? And I'm very happy to spend money that way. My tithe, I'm very happy to spend money that way because I know it gives back to where I receive my spiritual food. So anytime you give to something, you're saying, this is what I value. So when you give to us, it lifts us up. We go, oh, they want this. And that spurs us on, it's really important to receive that support. So we just really thank you for all the ways you have given because it has kept us on the air. And again, it's kept us reaching people around the world that would otherwise never have heard this message of peace, of love, of empowerment. And I do believe we offer that, and we're real grateful. So Dave, what is our show title today?
The show title for episode 202 is Desperate to be Loved. Desperate to be loved. Well,
yes, and thank you for that title. I love that you always repeat it because it gives us time to kind of take it in. A friend of mine recently said, every time I listen to your podcast, he said, sometimes I'm doing something light. He said, every now and then I'll be working in my kitchen, but otherwise, I don't do it while I'm working. He said, because I want to listen to every word. And sometimes multiple times because I realize if I can take that message in a deeper way, I'm really gonna benefit. And when you repeat that title, especially this one, Desperate to be Loved, this is an important one, very, very important.
Yeah. And I think, there are some podcasts you can listen to kind of on a surface level. They're fun or whatever, but like I don't listen to audiobooks when I shop. And I can't listen to our podcast while I go grocery shopping because I have to focus in. So,
friends, this is for your soul, and your soul deserves, some support. And we all multitask. And like I said, however you get it, great. But for you, I want you to just think about, what does your soul need in terms of that around this show, around your morning journaling? I'm always going to bring it back to your journey. So today is so important, desperate to be loved, because we all are desperate to be loved. I know that because of the success of social media. I know that because of addiction. I know that because of the marriage and divorce rate. I know that because we come from traumatized childhoods. And I know it because I've experienced it myself. So no one gets out of this one. I also know that feeling loved is one of the most important things, not only to our survival, but to our thriving, right? To our thrival. Is that a word? I want to make up a word.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned social media because, with technology and phones and everything, and we've talked, long about all of that.
Yeah.
But there's also this increase of the influencer, of the TikTok star, of the Instagram star, which I think is a result of the siloing of communities and the siloing of the individual, into their screens, which again they're not inherently bad.
Right. We're not saying it's evil.
But
right.
I think people are feeling that lack of connection. And so in order to compensate for that, they generate this persona that they project into Instagram or YouTube Shorts or TikTok or whatever. And every little thumb up, every like, every comment fills that desperation on a superficial level. And I think I don't think I do think there's correlation between those.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I have a good friend who does some life coaching and some social work. And she often will put on her Instagram page, Instagram photo and real life photo right by each other. And, the Instagram photo, she's polished and has on makeup and a cute little hat. She looks like a model. And then the next one, her hair's down. She's got on glasses, and she looks like a real person. And so she works a lot with people, on those kind of image things. You know what? I'm going to ask her to be on the show. I just made a note to do that. She'd be wonderful to have on. But yes, you're absolutely right, Dave. And there is this desperation to be loved. And I use that word because when you're desperate, you will do anything. And what's the issue is the desperation is so unconscious that it motivates behaviors we're not aware of.
Including debasing yourself on a TikTok video. Or harming yourself or
harming yourself.
And this is coming from somebody who has a YouTube channel myself. I mean,
yes,
put
I
this
do
on
too.
YouTube.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And when I was exploring,
but I mean, I'm not going to roller skate in a bathing suit for the experience of the Soul Podcast channel. I've considered it, but yeah.
We'll film that in 3D for you.
Boy, people would really pay to see that. Yeah.
That's at our next live event.
The next live event, RCA
I'll
will
bring my
take her
skate.
skateboard.
I'll bring my
actually,
rollerblades.
let's just, Yeah, exactly. Well, it also, yes, and Dave, you're describing this, it prompts us to do risky behaviors. Sex addiction is really based in the need for, intimacy, sometimes for control, sometimes and of course it's all imitation love, right? It's not real love. And, in Greg Bear's book, which is called Real Love, he calls, we all have these getting and protecting behaviors, he calls them. And if you've never read that book, it's I don't love every aspect of the book, but there are many things in there that I think are good. And one of the things is how he describes our getting and protecting behaviors. And of course, the reason we do those is we're doing anything we can, right, to either get love or protect ourselves from being hurt. And it would be a great book. But I want to back up a little bit and say, when we're born, we're born into a very specific family system. And friends, I have really come to learn every family, and I jokingly say about my family, by the way, like I just said to somebody the other day, being an Anderson is a reality. And, when I've been writing stories of my childhood, which has been a lot of fun, but I'm like, I can't believe I survived some of these things. But the family you're born into is its own reality. That's what I started to say. And this reality is fraught with dysfunction, people trying to get their emotional needs met. Sometimes it's an abusive environment, and when you're coming into this as a baby, you're trying to figure out, how can I get loved? Because without love, you won't survive. And we've talked about that before, and I'm going to keep bringing it up because it is such a motivator of our behavior. And again, even at that stage, you don't really know that's what you're doing. You're reaching for mama, you're crying for milk, and so for those of us that grew up in households that those cries went unanswered or we were not held, that has an impact for the rest of your life. So this is a pretty significant aspect of the journey, a stage of the journey, rather. So I want you to just think back to those childhood moments. And a lot of times, in one-on-one sessions, people will say to me, well, I have no memory of childhood. Well, that always tells me that it was traumatic, because why else would you not remember? In other words, it was repressed or blocked, the childhood memories. Because many of us that have done the deeper work have memories of our birth. I mean, I have memories of my birth. I've done a rebirthing session. I was able to confirm my rebirthing session with my mother, So, for instance, part of my story, I think I said this in one other show, but a part of my story was in my birthing was that the umbilical cord was around my throat and I couldn't breathe when I was born.
Oh, wow.
And nobody ever told me that. But when I was doing a rebirthing session, this is, 30 years ago, when I was doing the rebirthing session, I felt the cord around my neck. And I said to my mom, did I have a hard time breathing? She said, yeah, we didn't think you were going to make it. And I was born prematurely. And it was around that time that it was confirmed that I was born so prematurely. I was in an incubator for days and I could not get to my mother. And I always have felt like my mom was never there. Well, it was because in those first days, she wasn't, and so this desperation to get loved, by my mother, has really stayed with me. It's been a key in my healing work. So, I mean, this is no small thing, but I didn't know it until, I was almost 30. Now, what I did also learn during that time is that my mom was actually right there by the incubator. But in those days, they didn't let the moms touch the babies. They didn't know how important it was. You see, so it was really a thing of healing. And it was a great understanding then of my mom and what I had always wanted from her that I wasn't getting. She was there. I just didn't know it. So my healing work began to be around imagining that I had angels, and all that around me. And so that I could know that I was loved. But I had this like underlying desperation my whole life, and so I'm talking about desperate to be loved because I lived it. And if somebody said to me, was there no love in your family? Oh, no, there was a lot of love in my family. But if you are not feeling loved, and the youngest of so many kids, 7 of us survived, into adulthood, but there were actually nine babies. My mom would say to me, well, I actually had 9, but I always tell people 7, because 7 are living. But, when you're the youngest of that many kids, there's just not really enough energy and time to go around. So, that compounded that feeling of not being loved. So my healing work has been around this very thing. So I just am sharing openly, honestly with you that this is part of every human's experience and has certainly been a part of mine. Right? So, friends, the goal of this podcast today is to just bring you into awareness that some of your behaviors may be stemming from, I just need love. And once you get conscious of that, healing can begin to take place. So we're going to talk more about that. I can't believe we're already at 20 minutes, but we're going to talk more about that right after this brief message, probably about one of my classes. Hello, friend, and thank you for listening to the podcast. I'm so grateful you are listening, and I want to invite you into one more thing. I always get super excited to teach this course. It's called Dream Big, Live Big, Basics. This is the first course in a series of courses based on the Dream Big, Live Big idea. This course will help you grow, prosper, and evolve because you're going to learn how to tap into source. In other words, tap into spirit in you and listen to your own heart and soul for what dreams you still want to dream and what realities you still want to manifest. So the group will have peer support, you will have accountability, and a lot of love as you seek to know what are those dreams and goals you still want to manifest. There are already people registered for the course, and it starts Monday, May 2nd. So to register, just go to CynthiaAliceAnderson.com and hit book now. So Dream Big, Live Big Basics starts Monday, May 2nd at 7 p.m. For more information and to register, go to CynthiaAliceAnderson.com. Blessings on the journey, dear friend, and I hope to see you soon. Welcome back. We're glad you're with us. And friends, I'm just remembering my class starts tonight, and this is great because I have a lot of really interesting people who have registered for this course. It's the Dream Big, Live Big Basics that starts tonight at 7, and it's a 7-week course. So, I mean, this is an intensive, and if you haven't checked into it on my website, would encourage you to do that, CynthiaAliceAnderson.com. And I have seen people make such strides in their work. And one of the reasons, it has to do with today's topic, which is another reason I'm mentioning it. One of the reasons this program works is because it allows you to dream. And when you don't know you're loved, when you're desperate to be loved, all you're trying to do is get a need met. And when you go beyond that and you start loving yourself and you start listening to that, soul yearning, you really begin moving forward, in a different way. So anyway, would be happy to have you join us on this journey. There is a fee for this class. It's $300 for the 7 weeks. And you get a lot of support for that. So anyway, but back to the show for today, which, Dave, give us a title one more time.
Yeah, we are desperate to be loved. I'm going to say it again. Desperate to be loved. And, during the break, I was really thinking, because you were sharing kind of your story. Mm-hmm. And I remember coming out of high school, mm-hmm. because I grew up, I went to youth group, firmly like Wesleyan kind of evangelical Christian upbringing.
Right.
And so, I didn't party, I was what they called straight edge. I was super straight edge to the point where it kind of got, kind of the bad side of straight edge and, no smoking, no drinking, brah. And so, but
yeah, you said it was really intense.
Yeah. And this wasn't anything that was imposed on me by the church necessarily. It was more of a result of my two oldest sisters kind of being rowdy and we'll just leave it at that. I think we talked about it before.
Well, no, but that's good to say. It was a reaction to, I know I don't want to do that. So
exactly, because I saw how it really put my parents through the ringer, and I saw, my sister was a teenage mom, and I was like, okay, I saw firsthand the result of, unprotected teenage sex and all of that. And
all of that.
And drugs and all of that. So I was like super straight edge. But by the time I got to college, man, because I had like one or two girlfriends through middle school and high school. And I'm like, I'm doing something wrong. clearly, like I was so over it. I'm like, forget the church. I'm Dave is I'm in college now. Nobody knows that, I'm just some fat band nerd, because we're all fat band nerds, right? Because when you go to college, you're surrounded by band nerds in the music program. And I was just like, Dave is single and ready to mingle. And so I quite literally thought, you know what? I'm just going to go have fun. I'm just going to go have fun. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to put aside all of those
sleep around, drink, stuff.
100%.
Yeah, whatever.
I was here for that. And don't you know that the first real kind of serious date that I had, and this is the universe like, okay, Dave, I got you.
Okay, Dave, helping you.
My first real serious date was Shannon.
Yeah.
Talk about
and you've only been together, what, 25 years?
I think we're celebrating 30 years together.
Wow.
This November.
Wow, that is quite an accomplishment.
Our first date was 30 years ago in November. And so, that's, like I said, it's the universe really saying, okay, Dave, you're about to go off the deep end. And so I'm going to keep that from happening. So I'm going to put the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. That's going to be the real first person you fool around with. That's who that's going to be. And I thank God literally for that, because I think I was ready. I was so literally desperately to be loved. I felt unloved, and I felt betrayed by my principles, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And there is some way in which this kind of Puritan, ethics, have extended forward. And there's, especially for men, there's not a lot of ways for men to experience being loved and intimacy, in our culture. And, with women, it's a little different, because women tend to touch each other more. They tend to talk and communicate a little more than men. And it's so hard for men to feel a sense of intimacy without sex.
Right.
Because there aren't other opportunities. I think men have the capacity. Certainly, I know many men right now in my life who have found wonderful ways to have intimacy with other men through like therapeutic groups, through different martial arts forms where touch and wrestling is a part of the art itself. And you know what? Part of why men do that is because they get to be touched. And so, yes, it is. I'm so glad you lifted that up. And so in our culture, how men, get their intimacy needs met is a lot of times through sex addiction and those kind of patterns, through daily porn use. And of course, it's all fake, right? It's not real. So it just extends that feeling even more, even though there's something that kind of gets satisfied in a weird way. But I'm really, really glad you spoke to it. And yeah, when you're in that place, you'll do nearly anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And funnily enough, I was so like straight edge about like promiscuity and everything, but my senior year in high school, dirty magazines and all that stuff. I mean, come on.
Oh yeah.
17-year-old boy in the early 90s.
Oh yeah.
I can't imagine the struggle that, well, I can, because I've mentored and discipled some of these men with internet pornography and everything. But
oh yeah, and it's so anonymous. That's part of the problem. Yeah.
But coming out of high school, I was just done. I was so fed up with trying to do the right thing and feeling like it was feeling, like I said, feeling betrayed by my principles. Like, why am I holding myself? Why am I only dating, because I had the mindset that I'm only going to date someone who I could potentially see a future with, which is a lot. That's really heavy to lay on a 16-year-old, right?
Right.
Like you're asking to the movies.
Sometimes you just need to have a friend and see where it goes.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I'm really thankful that the first time I rolled the dice and decided to fool around, that it was somebody I was going to spend the rest of my life with. That's really, I'm really
Well,
thankful.
Well, in this desperation, that stays with us, and I know Donna speaks to it in a slightly different way on her show called Healing Your Family Legacy. But when we're not getting our emotional needs met in the most basic need, which is to be loved, the reason we go towards addiction is because the pain is so great emotionally, we're trying to like soothe that pain. Right. And so we go to alcohol, we go to drugs, we go to sex, we go to whatever, dominating, controlling, whatever the addiction is, because it's some way that we feel a connection or some kind of power, or it helps us check out of the emotional pain. Right. So this is important, I think, to know, because there may be a behavior you're doing right now and you go, why am I doing this? Why am I still smoking, even though I know I'm slowly killing myself? Why am I still drinking 3 glasses of wine a night or a bottle a night? Why am I doing that? Well, chances are it's because the emotional need and this need to be loved is not being met. And the emotional pain is so great. That's what you're doing to numb out.
Isn't there a pain suppression technique where, like, I've seen it like in like fighting choreography, where somebody will get like stabbed or something and they'll actually hit the injury. Like if you hit your injury, that's a pain suppression technique.
Well, right? I've learned when I fall on the mat in jujitsu, if you fall on the mat, you have to hit it. And if you hit it, it doesn't hurt. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like that. It's like, okay, so I have this I have this pain, and I'm going to try to treat the pain with more pain, because in some ways they kind of phase cancel each other out or something, but it's all temporary and fleeting.
It's all temporary. Exactly. Well, ask any addict, what do they need after the big high of the drug? More drugs.
Right. You have to hit yourself even harder.
You have to hit yourself even harder next time. Exactly. And, as I speak about addiction, I'm not speaking of it lightly at all. And much like what Dave was describing, I have some wonderful older siblings for sure, but I saw many of them in addiction. They grew up in a little bit different time. It was the 70s when they were teenagers. If it feels good, do it. Keep on trucking. All those ideas, free love. And so there was a lot of weed smoking, lots of alcohol, people trying acid. Well, I observed all that, and so I could see what it did to people. So I still had a need to be loved. I just didn't go about it, solving it with drugs or alcohol. I went the opposite way, which is much like Dave, what you did. I really went towards healing. And I started my own therapeutic journey. I think I shared this one other time, Dave, and you were like, I'm so surprised that I had to lie to my parents to get therapy because they didn't understand it. So I just told them I was going downtown to see a friend. And instead I found a church that had a counseling center, which was actually First Baptist Atlanta, where Charles Stanley was. And I had played some in the orchestra there. That's how I knew about it. But I had to lie to get therapy. So my therapy journey started at 15 because I could see there were wounds that I could see that I didn't want to go this other direction. So my journey started pretty young because I knew drugs and alcohol were not, I don't know. I just did not get that addict gene. I don't know how, because I drank at such a young age. I mean, I was hungover in 2nd grade and heard my parents fighting about it because I drank amaretto the night before with my dad. I mean, this is craziness. But I wasn't an addict. I didn't drink regularly. I didn't, I never was that type where you can't have one, you just keep going. So my journey went the opposite way. But even in my spirituality, Dave, I've had moments where it's like, okay, this is not enough. There has to be the emotional healing. It's like something has to get mended up inside of us. Belief and faith usually are not enough. There has to be emotional work too, because we can believe God's here. We can believe God loves us. We can believe in Jesus. We can believe in Allah. It doesn't matter, but there's still a need to be loved, So until we can love ourselves, then we'll always be desperate to be loved. And when we're desperate, we will take anything. And, if I've looked back at my life at relationships that were, less than healthy, I can see those grew out of a desperation to be loved. So we want to be, just cognizant of what is motivating our behavior. I guess a bottom line, that's what I'm saying, is that, and to try to look back on our lives with some, clarity, with some honesty, and say, what did prompt, this behavior? And, that old song, looking for love in all the wrong places. That's what we all do. That's what we all do. Well, and every love song, basically, on the radio now is about desperation for love. It's not really about real love. It's like, I know you hurt me, but I love you anyway. So the question to me that's obvious now to answer is, well, so how do we heal that? So first of all, for any healing, you do have to first have awareness, which is why we spent so long. And I wanted to talk a little bit about my journey, Dave, a little about his, so you get context for your own. There's not a judgment if you've been desperate to be loved. It means you're human. And in spiritual circles, very often, I see people pretending life is perfect and all is well, even when, we come from drama, when we come from abuse, we ourselves have addiction, and we pretend everything's okay. Friends, that's not enlightened. That's denial. And I really want you to know that you're a spiritual being, living in a spiritual universe governed by spiritual laws, yes, but you're also human. And we have to deal with the human. We have to deal with this aspect. And there is a time at which we must love ourselves, and even, I'm going to say it this way, letting ourselves be loved. There's a vulnerability and authenticity to the journey where we say, what if I did allow love from the outside? What if I did actually start to love what's here? As my mentor used to say, warts and all. And just because I say I love myself exactly as I am, it doesn't preclude the need to work on myself. It means right now, in this moment, I love everything that's here. I have compassion for myself and my journey. I see the many ways that these relationships or opportunities to be loved, have been an important part of my journey. And I've learned along the way. And if I don't use those for learning, well, then, then I have that to work on to love myself. But I want to assure everyone listening, you certainly are very, very lovable. But as long as we're going to someone else to love us first, it's always and only going to be temporary. So loving ourselves is the love of God. Like people say, well, let God love you. Well, when you can't see God and you can't feel God, that's really hard. But I can look in the mirror and I can see myself. And as I love myself, I can let God in. I can let God love me from within. I can let God love me through other people. And then, the love that I have for myself starts to extend out. And then I draw a like to me. So you don't have to pretend you've got it figured out. Just know it's a journey with this. It's a journey with this. Sometimes you need a hand to hold as you go through it. Yes, that's what we are. We're your virtual hand to hold. But you are lovable. And I would hate to know that some of our listeners who are so fabulous, I can't tell you the number of incredible people I've met that listen to our show, are still going to addiction, are still going to the internet, are still going, to these sites to try to get some fake version when it's always been right there within you. So I want to encourage you to take the time for yourself, to really, really love yourself. Look in the mirror every morning and say, I love myself exactly as I am. And remember, as you begin to do that, you will see ways you need to work on yourself. You will see ways you need to grow and expand. You will see ways it's time to mature, on the journey. But that doesn't mean you can't love yourself right here, right now. Right here, right now, you are lovable. I don't want you to be so desperate to be loved that you'll do anything. My prayer for you is that you will love yourself right where you are. And as you do, you'll begin to let God love in. You'll be able to let other intimacies and friendships in that are going to support you in ways you've never even imagined yet. I was just in the last 6 months, I've noticed I'm kind of in a new gear in my life. And what I mean is I'm able to forgive more easily. I'm able to open my heart more. I'm able to let in different types of friendships that exist on different levels than I've ever experienced before. New levels of intimacy with men and women that are just beautiful, beautiful friendships. And I know it comes out of my time I've spent on self-love and on my spiritual journey, my meditative work, and also working very, very deeply on, the places I need to heal. So as I bring this to you today, as Dave and I bring you this show, it's out of our love for you and our hope for your journey that you will hear. There is hope for you and you are lovable. You do not have to be desperate, right? That there's goodness for you right here, right now. And it's always been right within you. We're going to put a resource in our show notes. It's, there's a book, it's called Letting Yourself Be Loved. Oh no, I'm sorry. The track is called Letting Yourself Be Loved. Excuse me. The book is called Graceful Passages, and it's a book and a CD. You can find it on Spotify. Gary Malkin and Lou Epstein. It's called Letting Yourself Be Loved. And it's really, really beautiful. It's a recording with beautiful music and would be a wonderful meditation for you. I've used this book for years. I mean, it's been in existence about 20 years. I heard it right after graduating ministerial school, and it's been a cornerstone of my ministry in terms of when I'm working with people at end of life and helping them make a graceful passage. And this particular track called Letting Yourself Be Loved is really, really beautiful. So friends, thank you for joining us today. As always, we're so happy and blessed that you join us on your journey. We are honored, really, to support your journey, and we thank you for your trust. Reach out, let us know how you're doing. If you need other resources, we're happy to help. Of course, you can go to experienceofthesoul.com and contact us there, or my other website, which is CynthiaAliceAnderson.com. Or frankly, you could go to Unity North Tampa and put in a prayer request. We're here for you. I'm here for you on 3 different websites. So anyway, friends, excuse me, blessings on the journey, dear friends, and always glad to have you. See you next week.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2022, Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.